What's happening, YouTube? We've got an absolutely explosive situation developing right now that has the entire sports media world buzzing. Browns insider Mary Kay Cabot, who's been covering the team for years and has significant credibility and access within the organization, is now being called out by none other than Jamie Foxx. Yes, the Academy Award-winning actor and massive football fan for allegedly lying about Shedeur Sanders and Kevin Stefanski's relationship. And Coach Prime himself, Deion Sanders, has jumped into the conversation to co-sign what Jamie is saying. This is getting wild, folks, and we need to break down everything that's happening because this goes way deeper than just one reporter getting called out. Let me set the stage for you, because understanding the full context of this situation is absolutely critical. Mary Kay Cabot has been a Cleveland Browns insider for a long time, covering the team through multiple regimes, multiple quarterbacks, and countless controversies. She has access to the building, she talks to coaches and players regularly, and her reporting carries weight because of her position and her relationships within the organization. So when she makes statements about what's happening behind the scenes, people listen and often take it as gospel truth because of her credibility. But here's where things get problematic. And this is what has Jamie Foxx, Coach Prime, and countless Browns fans absolutely furious right now. Mary Kay recently went on record defending Kevin Stefanski's handling of Shedeur Sanders. And in doing so, she made some claims that directly contradict what we've all witnessed with our own eyes throughout this entire season. She's essentially trying to spin a narrative that Stefanski has been this great mentor to Shedeur, putting in extra time with him, helping him develop, being the reason for his success. And people who've been paying attention are calling BS on that entire narrative. Let's play out exactly what Mary Kay said that has everyone so upset in her comments. She claimed that the Browns didn't initially think Shedeur had high football acumen, which is already insulting, considering this is someone who was coached by one of the greatest football minds ever in Deion Sanders and played at the highest level of college football. She then said Shedeur was starting further back in the process of understanding play calling, protection adjustments, motions, and all the pro-level concepts, suggesting he was behind the curve when he arrived. Mary Kay went on to say that Shedeur has come up that learning curve lightning quick. And here's the kicker. She attributed that rapid development to Kevin Stefanski spending extra time with him in the office every single day, going over tape, and teaching him the offense. She then explicitly addressed what she called the narrative that's out there, that Kevin Stefanski has tried to sabotage, shear, or doesn't like him, saying, "No, the reason why Shedeur has learned as quickly as he has is because of all that extra time that Kevin Stefanski has put in with him." Now, on the surface, that sounds like she's defending both Stefanski and Shedeur, painting a picture of a dedicated coach working hard to develop his young quarterback. But here's the problem, and this is why Jamie Foxx and Coach Prime are calling her out. That narrative completely ignores and contradicts everything we've actually witnessed throughout this season. It's revisionist history at its finest, trying to rewrite what actually happened to make the coaching staff look better. Jamie Foxx, who's a massive football fan and has been following this situation closely, posted a response that simply said, "Knock it off." And you know what? That's the perfect response, because that's exactly what Mary Kay needs to do. She needs to knock it off with the PR spin. Knock it off with trying to protect the coaching staff at the expense of the truth. Knock it off with these narratives that don't match reality. And Coach Prime Deion Sanders himself co-signed Jamie's call out by posting, "Thank you, Jamie Foxx. That's huge. That's Shedeur's father. Someone who knows his son better than anyone. Someone who's been coaching him since he could walk. Someone who understands exactly what Shedeur's football acumen level was before he ever got to Cleveland." Publicly thanking Jamie Foxx for calling out this false narrative. That tells you everything you need to know about how the Sanders family feels about Mary Kay's reporting. Let's talk about why this narrative Mary Kay is pushing is so problematic and why so many people are calling it out as lies. First of all, the suggestion that Shedeur Sanders didn't have high football acumen when he arrived in Cleveland is absolutely absurd. This is someone who was coached by Deion Sanders, who grew up in football royalty, who had access to elite coaching and training his entire life, who played multiple years of high-level college football, who demonstrated advanced understanding of defensive schemes and protections throughout his college career. To suggest he was some raw prospect who didn't understand pro concepts is insulting and false. Second, the claim that Shedeur has learned quickly because of Kevin Stefanski's mentorship completely ignores the timeline of what actually happened this season. Remember, they told us there would be a four-way quarterback competition. They said it would be an open battle where the best player would win the job. And what actually happened? She didn't even get first-team reps for most of training camp in the preseason. He was buried on the depth chart behind veterans who clearly weren't as talented. That's not a coach investing heavily in developing a young quarterback. That's a coach refusing to even give him a fair opportunity to compete. When Shedeur finally did get his chance to play, it wasn't because Stefanski believed in him or had developed him to the point where he was ready. It was because the other options had failed so spectacularly that the team had no choice. And even then, even after Shedeur showed he could play at a high level, we saw Stefanski make baffling decisions, like pulling him during those two-point conversion attempts. That's not the behavior of a coach who's invested in his young quarterback's development. That's the behavior of a coach who doesn't fully trust or believe in that player. The numbers tell the real story here. When Shedeur finally got to play, he immediately showed he was the best quarterback on the roster. He threw for 364 yards and 4 touchdowns against the Titans. He won NFL Offensive Rookie of the Week. He demonstrated poise, accuracy, decision-making, and clutch performance that you rarely see from fifth-round rookie quarterbacks. And he did all of that despite questionable support from his coaching staff, not because of some magical mentorship from Kevin Stefanski. Here's what really happened, and this is what Mary Kay is either ignorant about or deliberately misrepresenting. Shedeur Sanders came to Cleveland already possessing elite football knowledge and quarterbacking ability developed primarily by his father, Deion Sanders. Remember, Shedeur himself said in interviews that everything he learned came from his dad. That Coach Prime coached him hard his entire life. That his football education happened long before he ever put on a Browns uniform. That's not speculation. That's Shedeur's own words. When Tom Brady went on national television and absolutely destroyed Kevin Stefanski for pulling Shedeur during those critical moments, Brady's entire argument was that Shedeur had earned the right to be on the field through his performance. Brady didn't say, "Well, Stefanski has done such a great job developing him." Brady said Shedeur showed he could handle the pressure and deserved to finish what he started. That's a very different narrative than what Mary Kay is pushing. The so-called four-way quarterback competition was a complete farce, and everyone who was paying attention knew it. Shedeur's numbers in the preseason and practice were better than the other quarterbacks. His accuracy, his decision-making, his command of the offense, all of it was superior. Yet, he didn't get first-team reps. He didn't get a fair shot to compete. That's not a coach who believes in developing young talent. That's a coach who's stubbornly committed to veterans regardless of performance. And let's talk about this claim that Stefanski is spending all this extra time with Shedeur in the office every day. Okay, fine. Maybe that's happening now, but you know when it should have been happening? From day one of training camp. If you draft a quarterback, even in the 5th round, and you see potential in him, you start that development process immediately. You don't wait until you're forced to play him because everyone else failed. You don't wait until there's a national controversy about how you're handling him. The fact that Mary Kay is trying to spin this as some great success story of coaching and development is insulting to everyone's intelligence. This is a story of a coaching staff that didn't recognize what they had, that didn't give their talented young quarterback a fair opportunity, that made questionable decisions even after he proved himself. And that's now trying to take credit for development that primarily happened before Shedeur ever got to Cleveland. Jamie Foxx calling her out is significant because he's not some random person on social media. He's a legitimate celebrity with a massive platform who's also a serious football fan. He even played Willie Beeman in the classic football movie Any Given Sunday. So, he understands quarterback dynamics and football culture. When someone like Jamie Foxx, who has no reason to lie or exaggerate, calls out a reporter for pushing false narratives, that carries weight. And the fact that Coach Prime thanked Jamie publicly tells you that the Sanders family sees what's happening here. They see a reporter who has access to the organization trying to rewrite history to protect the coaching staff. They see someone trying to give credit to Kevin Stefanski for development work that Deion himself put in over years and years of coaching his son. That's not just inaccurate reporting. That's disrespectful to the work that Coach Prime has put in with Shedeur. Multiple people on social media have pointed out how bad this looks for Mary Kay. One person noted that even Jamie Foxx, aka Willie Beeman, is calling her out, suggesting this is a bad look. And they're absolutely right. When you're a credentialed reporter with access and responsibility, you have a duty to report accurately and honestly, not to serve as a PR mouthpiece for the organization you cover. The moment you start spinning narratives that don't match reality, you lose credibility. And here's what's really frustrating for fans who've been following the situation closely. They've been saying Mary Kay was full of it all season long. They've been pointing out inconsistencies in her reporting, questioning her pro-Stefanski bias, and calling out her tendency to parrot organizational talking points rather than critically examining what's actually happening. And now, with Jamie Foxx and Coach Prime publicly contradicting her narrative, those fans feel vindicated. The four-way quarterback competition claim is the perfect example of how Mary Kay's reporting has been problematic. She repeated that talking point from the organization without questioning whether it was actually true. Anyone watching practices and preseason games could see it wasn't a real competition. Shedeur wasn't getting equal opportunity, yet Mary Kay reported it as if it was legitimate, essentially carrying water for a coaching staff that was misleading everyone about their plans. Let's also address the elephant in the room. Shedeur Sanders should probably be in serious consideration for Offensive Rookie of the Year, not just Rookie of the Week. Look at what he's accomplished in limited playing time. Look at his efficiency, his clutch performance, his ability to make difficult throws and smart decisions. He's outperformed his draft position by a massive margin. Yet, because the Browns waited so long to play him, he doesn't have the volume stats to compete for the major awards. That's on the coaching staff, not on Shedeur. The narrative that Shedeur needed extensive coaching to understand pro concepts is particularly glowing when you consider his background. This is someone who grew up around professional football. His father is a Hall of Famer who played at the highest level. He's been studying film and learning advanced concepts since childhood. To suggest he showed up in Cleveland as some raw project player is not just inaccurate, it's insulting. What actually happened is much simpler than Mary Kay's spin. The Browns coaching staff didn't want to start a fifth-round rookie. They wanted to go with veterans. They didn't properly evaluate Shedeur's ability during the offseason. When they were finally forced to play him due to injuries and poor performance from others, he immediately showed he was the best option. And now, rather than admitting they should have recognized that sooner, they're trying to take credit for his development as if they saw his potential all along. The timing of Mary Kay's comments is also suspicious. She's making these claims now after Shedeur has won Rookie of the Week, after Tom Brady has publicly criticized Stefanski, after the national narrative has turned against the Browns coaching staff. This looks like damage control, like an attempt to rehabilitate Stefanski's reputation by creating a false narrative about his relationship with and development of Shedeur. But here's the thing. You can't rehabilitate your reputation with lies. You can't spin your way out of bad decisions that everyone watched happen in real time. We all saw Stefanski pull Shedeur during those two-point conversions. We all saw the four-way competition that wasn't actually competitive. We all saw Shedeur sitting behind inferior quarterbacks for weeks. You can't just pretend that didn't happen and expect people to buy a completely different story. The fact that credentialed reporters like Mary Kay can maintain their access while pushing narratives that don't match reality is a problem in sports journalism more broadly. There's often too cozy a relationship between beat reporters and the teams they cover, leading to reporting that serves organizational interests rather than truth. Fans deserve better. They deserve reporters who will call out bad decisions and poor management rather than running interference for coaches and executives. Jamie Foxx telling her to knock it off is exactly the response this kind of reporting deserves. It's a public figure with no allegiance to the Browns organization or personal relationship with the coaching staff, saying what many fans have been thinking. Stop with the spin. Stop with the false narratives. Stop trying to rewrite history. Report what actually happened, not what the organization wishes had happened. And Coach Prime's public thank you to Jaime is his way of setting the record straight without having to get into a direct confrontation with a reporter. Deion knows the truth about how Shedeur developed and who deserves credit for it. He's been coaching his son since childhood. He's the one who instilled the work ethic, the football IQ, the mechanical soundness that's allowed Shedeur to succeed. For someone to suggest that Kevin Stefanski is the primary reason for Shedeur's rapid development is not just inaccurate. It's dismissive of all the work Coach Prime has put in. Moving forward, Mary Kay Cabot needs to be more careful about the narrative she pushes. Her credibility is taking a hit, and rightfully so. When celebrities and Hall of Fame players are publicly calling out your reporting, that's a sign that you've strayed too far from objective truth into organizational PR. She should be holding the Browns coaching staff accountable for their questionable handling of Shedeur, not making excuses for them. For Browns fans, this whole situation is just another example of the dysfunction that's plagued their franchise for decades. They finally have a quarterback with legitimate franchise potential, and instead of celebrating that and acknowledging they got a steal in the 5th round, the organization is trying to take credit for development they didn't do and covering up for coaching decisions that were clearly wrong. It's maddening. The silver lining in all of this is that Shedeur Sanders keeps proving himself on the field regardless of the off-field drama and questionable media narratives. He won Rookie of the Week. He's showing he can play at a high level. He's developing chemistry with his receivers. He's demonstrating the poise and ability that will make him a successful NFL quarterback for years to come. No amount of spin from Mary Kay Cabot or anyone else can change those facts. All right, everyone, there you have it. Jamie Foxx and Coach Prime are calling out Mary Kay Cabot for pushing false narratives about Shedeur Sanders and Kevin Stefanski. What do you think about this situation? Is Mary Kay out of line with her reporting? Should she lose credibility for trying to spin this narrative? And how do you feel about Jamie Foxx getting involved in calling her out publicly? Drop all your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this breakdown of the Jamie Foxx and Coach Prime call out of Mary Kay Cabot, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and turn on post notifications so you never miss when we upload new videos covering Shedeur Sanders and all the drama surrounding the Browns. Share this with every football fan you know, because they need to hear about how a Hollywood legend and a Hall of Famer are setting the record straight. This story keeps getting crazier, and we're going to keep bringing you all the latest developments. Until next time, peace out.